Welcome to The Birth Breakdown, a mini-sode series from Her Birth, Her Story. These short episodes are here to open conversations around pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Things I believe that every woman deserves to look into, to question, and just to feel empowered by. This isn't about telling you what to do, what's right, or what's wrong. It's about giving you space to think, to learn, and to ask questions, to just trust yourself a little bit more as you prepare for your birth. So let's break it down. On today's birth breakdown, we are going to be breaking down something that a lot of women go through during pregnancy, especially the first trimester, and that is nausea and vomiting. A lot of times I think that this really makes or breaks if a woman truly enjoys being pregnant or not, because a lot of women experience ongoing nauseousness, not just the morning sickness. And a lot of things factor in. Sometimes it's because you ate too much. Sometimes it's because you ate something that your body just does not agree with. Sometimes it's because you're dehydrated. Sometimes it's just because. Sometimes it's because you woke up. Sometimes it's because you moved too much. And there's obviously medical reasons too as to why you are experiencing these things. So we're kind of just going to jump into that stuff and maybe some medical and holistic things that you could look into to hopefully help maybe your nauseousness or your vomiting chill out a little bit. Work with your provider and see what the best route that is for you. But we're going to jump into it. And first, we're going to talk about why this happened in pregnancy. Well, there's a lot of different factors, like I said before. One being that your HCG levels are rising. And this is why it especially happens in the first trimester. And this is why a lot of women between weeks 8 to 12 start to feel the most nauseousness or experience more vomiting during that time, because your H levels are often very high during this time. Now, that is also why in multiples pregnancies, like twins or more than twins, you normally get sick a lot earlier because your HCG is normally a lot higher. Yeah, so anytime that your ACG is extremely high like that, it's going to cause some imbalances in the aspect of more nauseousness. Moving on with the hormone changes. Obviously, your estrogen and your progesterone all change as well, because now you are not going through the ebbs and flows of your cycle. Instead, you are growing a human. And both of these hormones can contribute to just a lot of different things like congestion and bloating and just feeling really full and constipation and all of the things. So that also adds into more nauseousness, because when you're constipated or you're bloated or you have the reflex, a lot of times you just feel yuck. And the next thing is the placenta and immune adaptation. So let's just remember that in pregnancy, it requires the mother's immune system to adapt so that her body can support a genetically different baby, because your baby inside you is not your DNA. It is a new set of, there are some researchers that believe that the nausea can be part of a protective means, because think about it, you have increased sense of smell. You have aversions to more foods normally, especially foods that are higher risk of carrying those toxins that could end up in a sickness. You also have that heightened smell, like I said, too, so it can encourage the avoidance of certain foods that might upset your stomach or just upset you, or that just might upset your tummy. The next is blood sugar fluctuations. This is a big one, and I don't think that we really in pregnancy talk about the importance of blood sugar regulation during your whole entire pregnancy. We literally go until like 26 weeks. Then we have our glucose test. And then if you're good, you're good. And if you're not, you're not. And instead, I really think that we should be focusing on this from the beginning to the end, and even in postpartum, because this has a lot to do with really just a lot of things, especially when you get towards the end of your pregnancy and your birth too. So early pregnancy and your increase in blood volume can really just play a huge role in your being very sensitive to the drops in your blood sugar. So this is a lot of times why women feel really sick waking up, and it might get worse when they go too long without eating, and sometimes nauseousness for some women goes away literally once they eat a little snack. So sometimes your diet has to change a little bit to where it's not just like your 3 big meals. It might be 6 smaller meals or meals with snacks in between. And it's really important to focus on hydration, obviously, but also getting your protein, because a lot of times if you're anything like me, whenever I was nauseous, the only thing I wanted to eat was bread and cheese or pickles and cheese. Weird, but that's just how it was. Another thing that plays into this too is just genetics and individual sensitivity. And yes, this can change over pregnancies. Sometimes women feel this more when they're pregnant with boys. Sometimes they feel it more when they're pregnant with girls. And guess what? Every pregnancy is different. Every season of life is different too. And depending on your season of life too, it can contribute to just how sensitive you are to those hormonal shifts, how many cycles you've had in between your kids, if you're still breastfeeding. All of these things factor in to this nauseousness that you may be feeling. Okay, so now I think that it's really important that we look into some of the things that you can do, that you can ask for medically, holistically. And obviously, one, you need to work with your provider through all of this. But two, you also need to know that just because something works for one person does not automatically equate that it's going to be the same for you. So, the very first thing that we should look into is lifestyle. I am really big on just making healthy choices. Now, also in the other breath or other hand, you got to do what you got to do. And right now, if you're living on crackers, I understand, but you want to try to make sure that you're getting those vitamins and nutrients and minerals because they are important for you and they are important for your baby. But some things that you can kind of look at as like a first line to see if any of these things help is eating right before you get out of bed. So not even getting up and moving, but having like a protein bar by your bed or a handful of nuts or even some crackers or whatever that might be, and eating it right before you get up. That could help. Just like I said, small, frequent meals, because when you're pregnant and you're used to eating maybe 3 bigger meals or whatever, eating more often actually helps you have less nauseousness. Avoid ever having an empty stomach. Always have snacks with you, always have something that, even if it's not something big, it can be just something quick and easy, because when your stomach's empty, that also can lead to more nauseousness. Staying hydrated. This one's huge. This is always, especially in my first trimester, that I always have like a problem with, because to be honest, plain water, but don't want it. But I've noticed that if I put a pinch of salt in my water, high quality salt, or just a little bit of lemon, and even sipping on different type of juices throughout the day, bone broth, any way just to get some hydration, but also making sure that you are getting your minerals in, and not just only focusing on prioritizing protein. I'm very big on prioritizing protein no matter what, but it is especially important if you're nauseous and just in pregnancy in general. I notice anytime that I feel nauseous, I always went straight to the comfort foods, which ended up being like bread, crackers, even like vegetables and fruit. And then by the time I would fill up on those things, I would not be getting enough protein. So try to prioritize protein, whatever that means, whether that's a shake or if that is meat. I know some people have aversions to meat, but put some cheese on the meat, get you some ketchup, something to help you get the meat down, and just really try to avoid your triggers, because that obviously sparks a lot of nauseousness. So anything that's strong smells, greasy foods, Sometimes they sound appealing, but then when you actually eat them, they make you wanna barf. Like, even, like, the pizzas and the french fries and the big greasy burgers, like, they might sound good, but then when you go to eat them, it triggers that nauseousness. And try to avoid overheating. So, from a medical side, there are different medications that your doctor can prescribe you with to help with the nauseousness, especially if you are throwing up multiple times a day. Because I know that a lot of people don't want to take medicine, and obviously, you should outweigh pros and cons for you, but throwing up a ton every single day also comes with its own cons and things that you need to watch out for, like dehydration is a big one. And I personally know a few friends who had really awful first trimesters and even went into their second trimester, that once they got some medication to help with the nauseousness and the vomiting, it made it a lot more enjoyable. So that is also a conversation that you can have with your doctor, and you can go through all of the different kinds. There's not just like a one size fits all. You can ask all the questions, the pros, the cons, and you also should look into maybe getting your B12 and different B vitamins taken when you get blood work done, because a lot of times that can be a corporate as well. And your prenatal could your nauseousness as well. If you don't take your prenatal for a day and if you're not nauseous during that, sometimes what can happen is, this is why I say high quality prenatals are important, but just remember that everything is not a one size fits all, and you might just need to see like what prenatal works with you and your body the best. But sometimes your body isn't absorbing what it needs to or the amounts that it needs to. That's why I said that blood work, asking for different things than just the typical, might also be beneficial for you during this time, especially if you're low in your B6 and B12 vitamins. And just like I said, too, just remember that if you are vomiting a lot, this is definitely a conversation to have with your doctor to see if there is something that can help you with that. Obviously, just like I said, it's not the case for everyone, but the biggest scare isn't just the uncomfortability of vomiting and being nauseous. It's the risk of all of your nutritional imbalances, dehydration, imbalances in electrolytes. Like, that's all very, very important for the well being of you and your baby. So, definitely have that conversation with your provider. Now, here are some holistic approaches that really can help in the long run. And it might be things that you try right now and it works, or it might not. Just some of these are from speaking from my personal viewpoint of what I've done. Here are some holistic approaches that you can take. Protein and blood sugar balance. Protein is very, very important, but you want to make sure that you're also pairing it with some good fats as well. But you want to make sure that you're eating protein before coffee. Don't wake up and drink coffee. If you can, drink coffee, because for me in my first trimester, I can never drink coffee. Greek yogurt with nuts, smoothies with protein in them, meat sticks, bone broth, nut butter. Those are all really good things to try to prioritize before you have coffee, or just like as snacks throughout the day, to really keep focusing on that protein and your blood sugar balance. Another one, and this is one that always worked for me, which is ginger. And I would always buy the ginger chews just because it made me feel like I was eating candy. Just make sure you check the ingredients if you're anything like me, because some of them have a lot of extra sugar. You could use ginger tea, ginger capsules, ginger chews. Just make sure that if you are doing the capsules, that you talk with your provider over just the supplementing of like the amount. But the ginger chews, highly, highly recommend. Ginger tea, I also recommend, and put a little lemon in it too, and it's really good. A little bit of honey. And we also talked about this a little bit with the medical side, but vitamin B6, a nutrient based approach, definitely can help if you just find more foods or consume more things with a higher B6 level. A lot of people, a lot of women kind of swear by some acupuncture and pressure places. Definitely just make sure that you work with a pregnancy safe acupuncture company or just to ensure that you are hitting the right points and that it is truly safe for your pregnancy. The importance of hydration strategies. Just like I said, it's not just about drinking water, and this is even if you're not pregnant. I think that too many times we force water, 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 water. And yeah, that's not all that goes into it. Some ways that you can help yourself stay hydrated, especially if water gives you the ick, because for me, I have definitely experienced water giving me the ick, and I only could drink colder water. Nobody really likes to drink probably lukewarm water, anyways, or room temperature water, except my husband. He likes to be able to chug it. I always like my water a little bit colder. But ice chips, very important. That is another way that you can hydrate. Electrolytes, you can obviously get electrolyte powders. Sometimes just be careful with those with the added sugar or the amounts of the different electrolytes that they have in it. Coconut water. I don't know if you've ever had harmless coconut water, but the best coconut water ever. It is literally just like such a treat, and like it is one of the only coconut waters that I actually feel hydrated and feel really good after I drink it. It is expensive, but it just truly tastes good, and I just feel like it really works. And I have tried many, many coconut waters because I love coconut water. I love mixing it with orange juice and a little pinch of salt in the morning, but harmless coconut water is the way to go. Also, mineral rich drinks. I think that this is very important too. And this is also goes back into the water that you drink. Try to avoid tap water. Make sure you're drinking filtered water. And if you can, try to find a spring water or a mineral rich water that can really truly help hydrate you at a cellular level to not just to wet your whistle. Next is magnesium. I feel like magnesium is used for just about anything. You got headaches, magnesium. Can't sleep, magnesium. Got cramps, magnesium. It just cracks me up. But a lot of women use this just to help with sleep and constipation. And even though it's not directly for nausea, sometimes supporting different areas in your pregnancy might also equate for just less nauseousness throughout the day. Also, if you have not tried smell management, it really is a real thing because sometimes, like, that's why sometimes eating cold foods or why cold foods are a little bit more intriguing to you than the warm foods because the warm foods have the seasonings and the smells and the cold foods don't. So if you're really needing to get something in you, try to go for more of the cold foods than hot foods that might make you feel a little nauseous. Get fresh air often. Get outside. That has so many benefits to it in itself than just helping with nauseousness. I mean, get in the sun, breathe the fresh air, touch some grass, watch your kids run around, and enjoy just being outside. Try to do it before it's really hot, but any time is better than no time. And also smelling lemon and peppermint and things like that can really help take the nauseousness away. Another thing for me that has really helped me is gum. I know some people with gum, it's like it's something that it either works or it doesn't, because once the flavor goes away, it makes me gag, but until the flavor goes away, it's great to kinda curb that little nauseousness. Another thing is, obviously, I always wherever I can plug an Olipop in, I'm gonna do it. The ginger ale Ollie, so good. That and I'm not, like, huge on ginger. I do know that ginger does help me personally in pregnancy with nauseousness, but ginger ale Olipop, yes, way to go. Even the lemon lime one that tastes like a Sprite, yes, way to go. It actually does help. I had mentioned this earlier, but here's just some more things that you can request, like tests that might just help. Obviously, there's not a nausea blood test out there. I mean, that'd be cool if there was. There's nothing out there that says, oh, this supplement will fix it, or oh, this medication will do this. It's all unique and independent to that person. But here are some labs that might actually be able to help. Thyroid labs, TSH, and free T4. Pregnancy hormones can just temporarily affect these levels, and it might give you a good indication of kind of what's going on. A CBC for anemia and infections, a CMP. This can help your electrolytes, kidney function, liver enzymes, just to see kind of what's going on. Another one is a urinalysis. This can just help see, obviously, ketones, dehydration, any urinary issues that could be contributing, and some additional vitamin and mineral status that you should look into. Your B12, which I already talked about, your vitamin D. This one honestly is overlooked a lot, and I feel like it's not always ran on certain tests unless sometimes if you request it. And I just would, because one, it's always important, I feel like, to know your vitamin D level anyway, especially if you're supplementing, because you don't want to have to supplement if you don't actually have to. And that goes with anything, really. You don't want to ever over supplement, but vitamin D, especially if you're pregnant during the winter months, that could be a culprit of a lot of annoying things. So I definitely would look at that. And then your iron and ferritin. For me, in my pregnancies, that number always ends up being in the normal range, but it always ends up being on the lower end. And just remember, your blood work changes a lot of times from first trimester, second to third, because your blood volume is expanding too. So any way that you can check your iron and ferritin early, and then if it is on the lower side, figuring out how to maybe increase that, whether that's an iron supplement or whatever that might be, beef liver, beef organ supplement. Obviously, talk with your provider. Another thing that you can do is an ultrasound if your symptoms are super extreme, just to confirm your pregnancy location, dating, ruling out that you are only having one instead of two, and just it can actually help evaluate for rare causes of very high HCG. So if it is something that you are really concerned about and experiencing symptoms, maybe talk with your provider to see if a dating ultrasound or an in-depth ultrasound would make sense for you. So some things I just want to wrap up here this episode with is morning sickness is often very misleading. We think like, oh, I'm only going to feel this way in the morning. Sometimes people do not even feel any nauseousness in the morning. Sometimes it comes in the afternoon, night. Some people have it all day. Sometimes that's just literally no vomiting, and sometimes it can lead to vomiting. And just remember that nausea does not equal a healthier pregnancy or a unhealthy pregnancy. And I think a common myth is that more nauseousness just means a stronger pregnancy. It just does not mean a better pregnancy or a worse pregnancy. It is all dependent on the person, genetics, and all of those things that we talked about earlier. Also, that doesn't always necessarily mean too that the absence of nauseousness means that there is something wrong too. So if you are not experiencing morning sickness, nauseousness, vomiting, that doesn't just automatically equate that something is wrong either, because once again, there are so many things that factor into this. So if you are concerned, either way, whether you're having the nauseousness or not, just talk with your provider, maybe get some tests done, or just talk with them to see what would be best for you. Also, don't forget that there is a thing called hyperemesis gravidarum. Hope I said that right. But you need to know the difference between just normal nauseousness and vomiting versus the severe pregnancy vomiting, which is the hyperemesis gravidarum, HG. And many women really do experience HG. And so here are some red flags that can kind of help you to know, like, is this normal or is this severe? You cannot keep fluids down at all. You're showing signs of dehydration, weight loss, extreme dizziness, and even fainting, vomiting multiple times a day, very, very dark urine or minimal urination. So just make sure that if you are experiencing these, make sure you get in contact with your provider ASAP so that you guys can figure out what is the next best step for you, for your well-being and your baby. Also, I want to mention the emotional side of the nauseousness and the vomiting. This often is very much missed, but sometimes that nauseousness can really affect bonding with your pregnancy and your baby in the early trimester because it can affect your mental health and it can make you feel very guilty for not enjoying your pregnancy. But just remember, just because you don't enjoy certain aspects of pregnancy does not automatically mean that you're a bad mom or that just all of those negative things. I think that is silly, but it is a very valid thing that you can feel that way, especially when you hear moms who are just enjoying their pregnancy from start to finish. So just know you are still a great mom and your body is doing the things right now for your baby. And hopefully your nauseousness and vomiting will subside so that you can feel more of a closer bond. And it's okay to just survive the first trimester. That first 13 weeks can be so hard, so hard. So if you're just surviving, hey, that right there is good enough. Take care of yourself, take care of your baby. Also, the last thing I'm going to wrap up with is just some words of encouragement too. I think a lot of times our mindset and the way that we look at things can affect a lot of things. And I'm not saying that your nauseousness and your vomiting needs to be taken and you need to make something spiritual out of it or make something way positive out of it, even though it absolutely sucks. I'm saying that pregnancy is a season where the body is doing extraordinary work. That oftentimes a lot of it feels very uncomfortable. And I think that that is something that we need to keep in mind, even as we're going through all of these things, that you can still absolutely think that the first trimester sucks and still love your baby. You can absolutely despise nauseousness and vomiting and all of that junk and still think that you're a great mom because your body is doing extraordinary things right now. Really take this time to rest, listen to your body, try to figure out what things can help you, what things do the opposite for you. And just remember, you are doing extraordinary work for you and your baby. You are growing a whole human.
If this episode sparked curiosity, affirmed something you've been feeling, or just gave you a whole new perspective, I'd love for you to share it with another mom or mom-to-be who might need it. Make sure you're following Her Birth, Her Story, and if you feel called, leaving a review is one of the best ways to support this space. And it just helps these conversations to reach more women. Until next time, remember, this is your body, your baby, and your birth. We are reclaiming birth one story at a time. I also want to add this disclaimer that this is not to be taken as medical advice. Please make sure that if you are seeking medical advice, then reach out to your own provider so that you can figure out what is best for you.